afternoon, everybody. It's Jen with Mouthful. Myself and my co-host are coming to you today to talk about a very sensitive and important topic surrounding the George Floyd situation. But before we do get into that, we will have a prayer by Chris Thotty.
All righty, good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get right into a word of prayer on this good Sabbath. Father God, we come to you ever so humbly, just thanking you for another day that was not promised to us, Lord. We come to you, Lord, with clear minds, Lord, and full hearts, asking you just to guide us, Lord. Just guide us in the way of this prosperity and understanding, Lord, and this common ground, Lord. Just guide us in the way of your word and your will, Lord. We are in a very sensitive time, Lord. We ask that you continue to ease the minds of the masses, Lord, as people are going through very traumatic and very trying situations right now, Lord. Bless the families of all those affected by these terrible civil injustices, the Lord. Allow us, the Lord, to be able to find some sort of understanding and create some sort of dialogue today, the Lord, and moving forward, the Lord. I thank you so much for every day and every way that you make for us, the Lord. Thank you so much for everything that you put into my life. I ask you to forgive us for our sins, the Lord, and just lead us in the way every day and every way that you can. In the name of you pray, amen and amen.
Amen. So I do want to start by basically going over the details of the George Floyd situation. So on May 25th, George Floyd, a 46-year-old Black man, died in Minneapolis after Derek Chauvin, which is the police officer, knelt on his neck for almost 9 minutes while he was lying face down, handcuffed in the street. Two other officers further restrained Floyd, and a fourth officer prevented onlookers from intervening. During the final 3 minutes, Floyd was motionless and had no pulse. Officers could be seen making no attempt to revive him, and the officer's knee remained on his neck even as emergency medical technicians attempted to treat him. Two autopsies found Floyd's death to be a homicide. And so with that, there has been a response worldwide at this point to fight for injustices and police brutality. And it just, we need to further the conversation or continue to have these conversations in order to fight for change. So we all just want to really share our opinions and maybe even our experiences that we've had to continue that conversation.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start out. I actually planned on not saying anything in the beginning because I really wanted y'all to speak first. Not that this is, I don't believe this is a particular issue that just applies to one group of people. I believe we all play a part in one way or another. And it is a tragedy what happened to Mr. Floyd and anybody prior to him who was truly unjustly murdered, abused, held, maybe was found to not be guilty, and held, responsible for a crime they didn't commit. It's sad that those things happen in this world, but they do happen. And I think that what happened to Mr. Floyd is important to everybody because it's going to open up everybody's minds. It's hopefully going to start the ball rolling for some changes that need to happen. More on, I hope, on a personal level, that we start in people's homes first and foremost, and that we start with ourselves. And from there, we make a ripple effect onto everything else so that we truly can feel like we live in a society that's for everybody, that is fair, and that we all can walk around and feel safe for ourselves and for our children.
Absolutely. And like you said, it does start in the home. It does start with, because I feel like racism is definitely a taught or a learned behavior. And in order for that change to take place, that we have to teach children to think differently and act differently. But the problem with that is if their parents were taught this behavior, how can you teach differently? And so I saw a video of a young girl, having an argument with her parents, about racism and the idea of racism. And she was so passionate about it, And, you know, her parents were just not willing to hear anything that she had to say. So it's kind of hard for it to start in the home when the children are now teaching the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that video too of that girl, and you know, the clip that I saw was just her with the camera. So she was filming herself, and you could hear her parents. Sorry, my house phone, my landline never goes off. And of course it's going off now. But yeah, she was having a discussion with her parents about it. And while I thought it was an important thing for people to see, I thought it was also great that she was having that discussion with her parents as well. Regardless of what her opinions are and regardless of what their opinions are, I think.
Well, are they going to listen?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what? Like, I think it's interesting. I've been thinking about these last few days about listening and understanding and what the differences are. And, you know, the truth of the matter is a white person, a Hispanic person, an Asian person, a Middle Eastern person is never going to understand your personal experiences, no matter what your color is, right? Same with me, okay? But we just have to listen, yes, but we also have to understand that we're never going to understand either. And I can't walk in your shoes, you can't walk in my shoes, and that's okay, because I don't have to walk in your shoes to respect you or to care about you or to do what's right for you. I just have to understand and be a decent human being. And, you know, I try to tell my kids, because my kids, you know, I have teenagers, have been hit with like a lot of things from all angles. They were getting texts, I think like day 2 of this going on, from their friends saying, if you don't post that you're pro Black Lives or Black Lives Matter, you're a racist. And I thought, that's awful that people are doing that, because that's not what that means at all. It doesn't. I know, and Jen, I want you to speak because, girl, you got to speak. But
I have a personal kind of like, okay, I post a lot about it at the moment. And a lot of my white friends, they posted nothing about it. I comment every day. I ask if Black people are okay today. Just different situations or different things that I hear or whatever. I just make posts about it on Facebook at the moment. But as soon as I say something outside of that, here come my white friends under a funny post or something. But you ain't got shit to say about anything about Black Lives Matter. Like, at this moment, I'm blocking your ass because you don't care.
But you know what though, is I didn't post about Black Lives Matter before this. So don't you think I look real ingenuous? I think that's the word. If all of a sudden I'm like pro-Black, this, that, and the other. It's
no,
like I should have been pro-Black before.
But I don't post about Black Lives Matter every day. But when this situation comes up and everybody's sick of it, you don't see white people out there. In my opinion, there's more white people at these protests that I've ever seen. So yeah, I do want you to start saying that now. I sure do.
See, I look at it more like, I don't care what you say, because anybody can say anything. I care what you do, and what you do when this is all said and gone. When this has died down and we're just waiting on the next big story, I care what you do. Like, how do I treat you, you know, Desmond, Jen, and Chris, when nothing's going on? You know, or at least there's not some big story that tells people what to be upset about. How do I treat you on a regular basis?
But we need this to be as important as it is to us. We need it to be just as important to you like it is to us at this moment.
Right. Because for me, it reads like, if you can support, it's like you don't want to support me publicly, but you'd rather do it privately. As if you had something, like I won't say like this, you have something to hide, but if you're not willing to show that same support that you're doing to me as an individual for my entire people and my entire community, then I don't feel supported.
And
why?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
But just kind of back to the point that I see where you were going, but just because there's not anything that's going on the mainstream or the mainline news, you know what I'm saying? I was a teacher for 2 years. The school to prison pipeline is very real. You know what I'm saying? These young Black boys, you know what I'm saying? Like, whenever I was teaching at these alternative education schools, having to see young black boys getting patted down, getting wanded down to go inside of the school. They can't go to the restroom by themselves. We're training these children. You know what I'm saying? It's generational training. So just because you don't see it on your TV every day, which I'm not speaking to you, but just to the white, to my white counterparts in general, now white people are starting to become uncomfortable because these things are in their neighborhoods and on their TVs, and they're forced to come to understand that white privilege is a thing, and black people are murdered at a very high rate on a very consistent basis. You know what I'm saying? And so for you to say, well, you know, if I wasn't like this before, maybe you were ignorant to the fact before that you didn't know black people were being killed, but now you know, so now you have the opportunity to right that wrong and to continue to train yourself to understand the stigmas that are going on and the type of systematic oppression that's going on. You know what I mean? So I think that it's all about your perspective in the situation.
I hear you, and I 100% agree. Perspective is everything. From my perspective, I definitely know that black men, more than black women, black men die every day in the streets and in the world. I know that because the numbers show it. But what's also interesting, I mean, if you want to look at numbers, the numbers actually show that more white people are killed.
But the majority is white, so of course it's going to look like this.
But hold on, but here's the other thing is I think the black community only makes up 13% of the population, but they're at 63% of the crimes that happen. Okay. So that also is a very interesting, because if you do the math for being such a small percentage of the population and being such a large percentage of the crimes, that's a problem too. And I think that, you know, from my perspective, it's not that I don't know those things exist. It's not that I'm blind to it, but I think for me personally, like I look at it past just what everybody sees on the surface. And I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research. I really try hard when something comes out in the news to not react immediately, because what I have found is when I do, more information comes out and I'm just like, okay, now I got to backtrack what I thought about it.
Is this regarding the most recent situation with George Floyd, or?
No,
because the information,
I have no backtrack on that. No backtrack on that. Even everything that's come out, I know that this come out that he was on meth and that he was a porn star.
I was about to say, yeah.
I mean, I even saw a story. Not a story. I actually read his rap sheet. And on his rap sheet, it said that he, at one point, I think it was in 2007, he held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly in an attempt to rob her. She was a black woman, and there were 4 other men with him, and he got put in jail because he was the one that held the gun and he was the one driving the car. Okay. Even with all that, okay, all that does to me is speak to his character. That's all that does. Okay. But what happened to him in the streets recently, I don't care what you did, you still are innocent until proven guilty. And even if you did do something, that does not justify how you were treated. So as far as that situation goes, I have no backtrack on that whatsoever. That was
But here's
wrong,
my thing, like why
wrong.
even go backtrack to judge a person's character, to understand who they are as a person, to form an opinion on who they are when the action is he got killed.
He got killed.
And it was in an
like none of that
situation.
matters.
So why does his character matter? Like, why would you research that?
That shit does not matter.
And you know why it matters? Because when you're talking to your kids about it, when I talk to my kids about it, about anything, when you're raising children, you have to tell them how to behave in society to not get caught up in stuff. Okay. So for instance, there's plenty of criminals out in this world who don't have a rap sheet. They've never been to jail. Maybe because they have gotten lucky, they haven't gotten caught, whatever the fact may be. Okay. But the point is that whether it's a crime, whether it is any situation that you could get in that is a negative situation, the way you behave leading up to that moment is very important, because you can put yourself in a situation that can lead to very bad circumstances, or put yourself in a position of another bad person that is a terrible person in the case of this officer, that now put yourself in that situation, because the fact is you are not going to, the chances are, I'm not going to say 100%, okay, the chances are, if you are not doing something that causes you to have an interaction with the police, you're on the greater side of not having an interaction that is negative.
I have to disagree. I completely disagree. So I saw a video where a young Black man was sitting outside of this very nice apartment complex waiting for his friend to come pick him up. He was leaving one friend and another friend was coming to pick him up. And so he was approached by a police officer. Mind you, he's just sitting outside. So he was approached by a police officer. There was an altercation that happens. The boy never touched the police officer. But at the end of this altercation, the police officer said, "Put your hands behind your back. I'm taking you to jail for assault on a police officer." Had a person not been there filming that, he's now in the system. That rap sheet that you saw was BS. You know what I mean? So now you can look up this person that had this altercation with a police officer because of the fact that he was just sitting outside in a nice neighborhood being Black, and now he has an assault charge and never touched his police officer. And there are plenty of situations where that happens, where they may not be lucky enough to have a person sitting there filming it with their phone.
I understand that. Like I said, I didn't say it never happened. I'm just saying the percentage, and I'm just looking at the numbers because that's all I have to go by, okay?
Right.
I totally get that there are outliers, just like with the situation with George Floyd. But I think it's still important to have a conversation with your children. And I know that this happens in Black families more so than in any other family or any other, ethnicity, where they have conversations about this. But it's important to have the conversation responsibly and say, not because police are out to get you, but because you just need to be a good citizen. Don't commit crimes, don't break the law, and your chances are better. I'm not saying they're going to be 100%. I'm not saying you're not going to encounter that person.
No, because a police officer does not know if I have a record until he approaches me. And so when he approaches me with an intent, or whatever the intent he already has set in his mind, he doesn't find out until I'm a criminal till later. But you're already on edge. You're already, your alert level is high just simply because I'm Black.
Right.
So all of that doesn't come till later.
I don't think that the crimes that someone may or may not have committed and how do I say, the systemic tyranny that has been set in place are to be equated to the same thing. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't even sound like I don't say that doesn't sound like a complete thought, but how can something that happened prior to this? And so basically it sounds like you're saying that what he's done has led him up to this moment to have this ultimate judgment. And that's not correct. You know what I'm saying? Because if that was the case, then not to go back to the whole slavery thing or the whole, stealing red land thing, you know what I'm saying? Or any of that sort. But white people have for years been taking and burning and looting and killing and murdering. So you're saying that white people are ultimately going to meet their fate as well because of their inadequacies, you know what I'm saying? Because of the things that they've done to us or to other people. That's what you're saying. It doesn't. I'm
saying no matter what color you are, if you act a fool and you do something, or if you get pulled over and you start acting erratically for no reason, anything could happen. Anything.
What about the ones who haven't done anything? What about the ones who haven't done it? And that's the issue. What about the ones who ain't did shit?
So you know what? I researched that too, because I was like, let me find the one that really didn't do anything. Okay. And I found this Black guy that he committed suicide ultimately. Relax, Jen, relax. Hold on.
I'm just listening.
He committed suicide ultimately. Okay. But God forgive me, I cannot remember his name, but he was stopped. I think it was in New York City. He was 16 years old and he was wearing a backpack that somebody had accused, said that this boy had stolen a backpack from a store and he was on the street. So the police stopped this guy. He ended up going to jail, okay, for stealing a backpack in the state penitentiary. He went to Rutgers. I believe Jay-Z actually called for Rutgers to be shut down because of it. And this poor guy was depending on his assigned lawyer, okay, to fight this case for him, because his assigned lawyer he told him, he's like, I am not the one that stole this. And he really was innocent. It turned out he really, really was innocent. And his lawyer never fought the case, okay? Something happened. They don't know to this day, but he was released from Rutgers, not even being told why he was released, but being told he was released, and he was set free. He never got his day in court about it. Okay. His parents tried to fight it and tried to sue because he was unjustly incarcerated for that. That was a situation that was wrong. And because this guy who grew up to be an adult was so beat up over this moment, he was traumatized. He ended up committing suicide. Because of it. And that is the true injustice. Okay. That guy did nothing. He didn't have anything leading up. He was just walking down the street with a backpack, and he was accused of stealing.
Tamir Rice didn't either.
I'm sorry, what?
And Tamir Rice didn't either. Or Philando Castile didn't.
No, Philando Castile, he had a weapon, and he was stopped. And he told the police officer, I have a weapon.
Okay.
What would you like me to do? And he did not listen to the police officer's directions and reach for the weapon. And then it turned out that he was carrying the weapon illegally. Yeah. So that's the other thing. It's like, you look at it.
No, ma'am. That's what we're not gonna do. No.
Give me a sec. I'm listening to you. I just gotta go get a charger. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He let the police know he had a weapon. So at that point,
Right.
That's all you need to know. And
yeah, but he let the police know he had a weapon, but when the police said don't reach for that weapon, he did.
okay.
And here's the thing. In those situations, he had every intention of cooperating, because why would he tell them that I have a weapon? Determining whether or not the weapon was illegal and all of that has nothing to do with anything else, because again, that doesn't happen until after the fact. So my
and
thing
Duran
is,
had a damn tail light out, or
and it's
I'm just.
But here's my thing. It's just like, that kind of goes back into you like researching a person to determine their character, and like none of that plays a bearing on that situation. He reached for the weapon, but also he's being approached by police officers, and you don't know how to react in that situation. Hey, I have a gun. I can really, I want you to do.
Your
And you know what I mean? It's like you don't know what you're going to do in that situation. Now, figuring out that the gun was illegal has nothing to do with the fact that this man was killed.
That shouldn't have given him the death sentence at all, because he had an illegal gun in his car.
I agree with you.
At that point, he was not. He had no intent to kill the police. So
I agree with you.
Okay, so what was so my thing is, why bring up that shit? Why bring that up? Why does that even matter? That man is dead. All of these black people are dead. Why does what is the things that you're explaining? Why do they even matter? These people are gone. They're gone.
It matters, and it matters because the details do matter, okay? Because now you have to put yourself in the position of the police officer. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been on a ride-along.
I don't have to do that at all.
Okay.
I don't have to do that, because at that point, I've heard this conversation over and over and over. They're there to protect, true enough, but at this point, if you that damn scared of a black person, this is not what the hell you need to be doing.
And here's where my issue lies.
You see a black person, it's okay. Let me pull my gun out. You don't need to be doing this job. That has nothing to do with it.
It goes back to the conversation that where we were talking about having to teach children. And so for you to take information of looking at rap sheets to determine a person's character and to be teaching them, and this is just what I assume based on what you said, for you to be teaching them that this is how a person can wind up based on their character is crazy to me. Like, you can't have situations where you may make mistakes. It may have nothing to do with your character. You've made some mistakes in life based on how you grew up, how you were raised. And so all of that determines your fate. And I don't like that conversation.
I didn't say all of it determines your fate. I said it can lead up to circumstances that can determine your fate. I didn't say all of it. I didn't say all of it, because there are plenty of people that have done bad things, that have turned their life around and no longer do bad things. And people don't go, well, your rap sheet.
But they're still judged by their rap sheet.
That is, it sounds, at the end of the day, that's a cop out to justify that Black people are being killed. And I don't really get that from you, Jen. And Monique, Momo, my bad. I don't really get that energy from you that you would want to find a reason to justify people being killed. But just being real, police were started, the Pinkertons were started post-slavery to collect slaves, to collect Blacks and take them back to slavery. That's why the police force began many, many years ago, was to collect niggas, okay? So that's the basis of it. We are policed differently. If you get pulled over and Jen gets pulled over, it's going to be a different conversation.
And you know that.
Regardless of how you try and slice it.
And you know that.
It's
I don't understand. And if you don't know that, I don't understand. Do you remember the situation at the studio? Do you remember that, how we reacted and how you reacted?
Yeah.
So this conversation that you're having with me right now, it doesn't make sense, because you know we were scared to death. You didn't give a damn. You was like, oh, you was cool.
But my argument there was because again, let's go back to the fact that I can only understand from my perspective, just like you guys can understand from your perspective. From my perspective, there was nothing at the moment to give me fear.
As a Black person, when we see a
experience.
police, we turn the other way. We don't even want to deal with them.
But you know what was funny, Jen, is I actually went back and listened to that episode, okay? And I was like, let me just remind myself if anybody on there had specific examples of how they themselves had been racially profiled or discriminated. And Chris, you didn't get to be on the panel, so I don't know if you did or not. But everybody on there said, I personally haven't gone through anything, but I've heard of, okay? And I get that. Like, I personally haven't been raped. That doesn't mean that I don't have sympathy for people who have been raped. Okay, I don't. But you know what? I tell my daughter, okay, not that anybody deserves to be raped, but don't put yourself in a position where you are alone with a man, where you are inebriated, you are inebriated to not make the decision.
So now you're giving her, you're now telling her, don't be the reason you get raped. No.
No. I didn't say don't be the reason, but be aware.
That's exactly
of
what you're saying. Whether or not you're saying it verbatim, that is what you're telling her.
No, Jasmine, because I have the conversation with her and I say, listen, you need to carry yourself a certain way, just like Black people tell their young children, you need to carry yourself a certain way, correct? Correct?
And at that point, as a daughter.
Correct? Is that correct, though? Am I not correct? Do Black people not tell their children when they're young, before anything has happened to them, you need to carry yourself a certain way?
Every person should tell their children to carry themselves a certain way.
I agree with you.
Right.
I agree with you. But I don't have, when I have that conversation, okay, about police, I don't say, hey, the police hate you, so this is how you need to work. Okay, this is what you need to look like. Okay.
At this point,
this is what I'm saying.
Be careful.
I'm just saying, be careful. Exactly.
That's what I tell my son.
Listen,
be careful.
My daughter the other day, she went out to the store and she had these little shorts. They were athletic shorts. And I said, can you please go put on some shorts that cover your booty?
Because she should be able to wear what the hell she want to wear without getting touched. No, ma'am.
No. And I agree with you. I agree with you. Okay. But
excuse me. People need to keep their hands to themselves.
I agree.
And that's
but you know what? Whether it's their hands or their eyes, I don't need anybody looking at her ass.
Baby,
okay.
Now they gonna look.
They gonna look. They gonna look what she got on: shorts, a dress, pants. It doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying.
If that is their character,
people get raped in dresses. People get raped in skirts down to their knees. I mean, down to their ankles. People get raped with short ass shorts. So why does it matter what she wears?
And here's
people
my
need
thing:
to keep their hands to themselves.
For the same reason that I say, you can get raped. You can get raped wearing a turtleneck. I'm not saying that the only people that get raped are people that dress provocatively, but don't give a reason to be that type of person that some guy's gonna look at you and go,
I don't
definitely don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that statement at all.
No,
but here's the thing. So I do want to kind of switch it up a little bit to kind of get your opinion, well, everyone's opinion on the comparison of these situations. So when we have a situation like George Floyd, where we are getting to know George and his character, you bring up things like, you know, he was a porn star, you know, and all the crimes they committed and things and you bringing up those situations, but we're not discussing his mental health or the relationship that he had with his family and things of that nature, which is the total opposite of when you have these mass killings where a white man goes into a church and kills everyone in the church, or
Now
goes
he
into a
goes,
movie
but he went
theater
through something.
and shoot. He was so mentally unstable. He was so mentally unstable, and they try to create a narrative of trying to sympathize and empathize with him and what he went through in his life, as opposed to that's not how they do a black man.
And you know they don't.
But you know what, though? I've never seen a parade, like, for instance, when the Unabomber went and bombed the whole damn school, white people didn't parade and go, well, he had a mental health problem, you know, like, blah, blah. Nobody was making an excuse for him. He was in the wrong. You know what I mean?
He was definitely in the wrong. But again, the narrative of him as a person was totally different.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Every
What was the
white
narrative
person.
of? What was the narrative?
They, again, like, say for instance, I can't remember his name, but there was a school shooting. And so when they started talking about him and the scope of the whole situation, everything was focused on him and his life and how he grew up and his, mental instabilities and things. I wish I knew his name. But it's totally different than when, like I said, George Floyd, they're bringing up all these things about his criminal record and his history as a porn star and when none of that really matters. And it just goes to show how media controls the narrative between a white person and a black person.
So when it's done to, like, our political leaders, so you're saying we shouldn't do it to them either? Because they're all dirty, right?
Say that again?
They really are.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, like, when we do it to, like, our presidents, whoever the president is, we're always talking about what he did before he was president, what he said, who he touched, what his wife looks like, all this stuff. It doesn't matter, right? Right?
But it does matter because he's currently still saying, no.
He's leading our country and he's grabbed women by the feet. You want somebody leading you doing it?
But that doesn't matter.
No, it does.
I'm confused.
Oh, girl, you'll just be confused.
You guys, it's either gotta matter
because we're talking about someone that is leading an entire country. So his character matters.
That does matter. His character does matter.
George Floyd,
but I'm saying, but he did
down
that
the street because he wrote a bad check or whatever it was, did not lead up to him being killed. And his character prior to that moment did not matter.
Okay, so you're saying that unless you're leading a country, your character doesn't matter? We don't, like...
No, I'm saying the conversation of his character based on the fact that he was killed does not matter. Because, again, you're focusing on who he was as a person prior to him being laying face down on the ground with a knee in his neck.
But what you didn't hear me say was, I personally, and I honestly... I know, Jen, you posted some people that were like pro the cops or whatever, and I can't even believe that. Okay, but pro the cops in that situation. I personally don't feel like, I don't care about his character justifying that situation because nothing justifies what happened to him. Nobody deserves to die.
That's the opposite of what you've been talking about.
No. But what I did say is, the question I'm posing is, anybody who ends up in a situation like that, whether it be with the police, whether it be whatever, what were you doing leading up to that moment? Were you being a law-abiding citizen?
Driving down the street.
Were you being combative?
So, Jen, Monique, if I may, so essentially what you're saying is that our actions lead to us getting killed, I understand what you're saying, but pretty much what you're saying is us. So I get what you're saying. And so what I want you to understand is the whole fit in the description thing, the whole leading up to your own death thing is like it's not a death sentence to be black, to be a person of color. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been a mistaken identity. I got pulled over and had 3 police cars on me. I had a suit and a freaking tie on. Okay. Officer Tim Johnson gonna pull me over and tell me, what are you doing in these parts? My family lives in Rowlett, Texas. Okay, it's a prominent white area in the suburb of Dallas. Okay, my family lives in Rowlett, Texas. I literally have the shakes every time I have to drive to their house. Okay, the police over there are notorious. They had me pulled over for mistaken identity. You're a black man in a silver car. That's all we needed. That me hand up for 30 minutes just to let me go, just to say, okay, I know this address. I know this address. You know what? You can go ahead and dip. You know how scared I was? He came up to me with his hand on his hip. To be black is not to have a death sentence. We need to understand that, like, our people are oppressed. There needs to be, and I don't think it's a matter of what you're doing to get killed. What are the police doing to make sure that they're policing people properly? This goes back to reform. This goes back to training. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many hours did you have to train to be a police officer? You know what I'm saying? Like gun laws. Are you even from this area? You know what I'm saying? You can't police people you don't know if you ain't never been to South Dallas. If you from Lake Highlands, you never been to South Dallas. Now you policing in South Dallas or Chicago or New York or wherever, and you're not from that area. You don't understand the people. So now that we're talking about going back like to roots, you know what I'm saying? It, like what you're saying, it doesn't make sense. We need to make sure that the people who are our civil servants, our last line of domestic defense, are here to actually defend us, okay, and not kill us. This shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, and at the bottom line, that is it. We need police reform and we need dialogue because our people are dying in droves, and we need to understand why. What do you see when you see us? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it about our skin that makes you want to say, "Hey, stop! Put your hands up." Even with your hands up, I see a weapon. Oh, I mean a cell phone. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Tamir Rice, the little kid playing, getting killed. I used to make cops and robbers all the time. You know what I'm saying? I used to.
Now my baby can't even go outside and do that, and it's sad.
It's scary. It's scary. And I wanted to be a police officer. Like real shit. I wanted to be a police officer until 2013 when Mike Brown got killed. 2014. I was in college. When I graduated, I was gonna go to the Air Force, get my shit, and then I was gonna go be a police officer. Then he got killed. And then I seen another black man get killed, and another black man get killed. And it's just like, damn. You know what I'm saying? like before then, maybe like I said, I was ignorant to it, but the more I started seeing what's happening to our people, we need a voice. You know what I'm saying? We need a voice, and we need to understand our people are not policed the same, and we don't get the same treatment. Period.
And I really hate that discouraged you from being a police officer, because we need people like you to be there. You know what I mean? To help create that conversation and make that change, because I don't think there's enough of them there, because it definitely starts there.
Thanks. But I feel like I use my voice in a proper format now, you know, where with our nonprofits and with my poetry and this general activism, like we have to push our own ship, should I say. You know what I mean? And it is, I mean, like, that's thing, and maybe I shouldn't have let it deter me, but just seeing that, it's just like, how much more? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
You know what, Chris? I 100% hear you. I hear the hurt. I do. And there's a reason why you're a poet, I think, because you explain things so beautifully, and I hear everything you're saying. I think the question that I hope that we can get to on this call is, you can't control how somebody else sees your black skin, right? You're never going to control that. But we need to talk about how, and not we, because I'm not black, okay, but how can we change the way young kids coming up now, because we're all adults, right? How can we change how young kids see their black skin? How can we change that narrative? Because I get it. I get the history. I get everything you've been through. We have you who does beautiful poetry. You do all kinds of, fundraising for the community. Desmond does his art with his photography. Jen is a beautiful black mother of 2 beautiful kids. Everybody is doing their part, you know, and that's all we can do, is do our part, because we can't, regardless of a march and regardless of whatever, we can't control what the next person is going to do. But we have to ask ourselves, what can I do better? You know, At this point,
black people, we don't need to do anything, in my opinion, as far as where the home goes. You know, at this point, I'm having to tell my kids, or mostly my son, because, you know, my daughter's 4, she doesn't understand. I'm having to tell him to act a certain way when he goes outside. I'm having to tell him that sometimes you can't even be a kid when you go outside, and that's ridiculous. Like you can't have fun outside sometimes. I can't remember what you just said. That there's nothing that we really need to do. It's what you guys need to do.
I think it's a matter of addressing. I think it's a matter of addressing the issues. We as Black people need to continue to push the envelope and need to continue to create our own and focus on
Right.
a simple sense of nepotism, because that's one thing that you don't have. Whenever you have Jewish people who go anywhere to a community, you're gonna see nothing but Jewish people in a cohesive spot. You got Koreans over here. You got Africans who sometimes disassociate themselves from Black people.
Yep.
Will go and have their own shit. White people, of course. Mexicans, of course, but Black people, you put us in a spot where we fight. Us Black people need to want to understand, like, we need to heal, because we've allowed these generational curses, this generational trauma, to allow us to be looking at each other through the same eyes that other people are looking at us through. We've allowed that to happen. Right. So when I see Desmond, regardless, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I see Desmond in the street now, you know what I'm saying? Like, just being real, you know what I'm saying? Somebody sees a gay man. I see a Black man. You know what I'm saying? I don't see gay. I don't see this. That's a Black man. That's a brother who fights the same fight I fight, if not harder, because, you know what I'm saying? Because of his life choice. And I have no problem with that. But at the end of the day, it's nepotism. When we see each other, it needs to be peace. We need to be building our own. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying segregation. You know what I'm saying? But it needs to be a pro-Black approach to banks and businesses and properties. And once we do have a sense of self, a sense of understanding, a sense of uplift that we are now, because you see some Black people do that. You have some conservatives, but then those conservatives, I'm not going to get into the whole politics thing, but you have some conservatives who disassociate themselves with Black people too and say, if I can do this, anybody can. Even Black people don't have the same hand of cards dealt. You know what I'm saying? So it's all different. But what we need to focus on is continued progression through ourselves, through our families, you know, and generational. We need to create generational wealth. You know, generational ties that, for example, I can leave for my kids and then for their kids and so on.
Can I ask a question? So what, in regards to what you were talking about, Chris, is I've seen a lot of like Black people who don't, who view things differently from the majority of the community, right? And I've seen some terrible things be said to them. Uncle Tom, you know, House N, all this other stuff. And I think that's terrible. What do you guys think about that?
I've seen what you've posted, and in my opinion, it's like you're siding with them just because they're not with the majority. That's how I feel. You're siding. I've seen the things that you've posted. Matter of fact, that it was something that you posted, and it kind of pissed me off, to be honest, because at this point, whoever that was who made that post, it's like, I feel like they're trying to go against the grain just for a reaction. Like, and it's for what? As far as the Colin Kaepernick, y'all ain't heard nothing. Colin Kaepernick ain't said nothing. That's not
exactly.
Why does that even
it's crazy that they even brought that up.
Why are you even
Colin
bringing that
not
up?
saying anything because of the fact that there is a global pandemic, right? So you're expecting people to, like, we don't know what Colin Kaepernick had.
You don't even know what he's done yet.
Exactly, what he has going on in his life right now that may be preventing him from being able to respond as quickly as the people wanted him to. But that is not his responsibility to do. Like, he did his deed.
Oh, I agree.
And of course that created a conversation. And so why are we putting the pressure on this person to continue to do it when he already did what he needed?
He already did what he needed.
So
to
it's
do.
like,
and it didn't work.
I'm not putting pressure on him. I could care less, you know, who responds to it. But my thing is, like, for instance,
what you can't say that when you make posts about Colin Kaepernick.
You shared something that a Black man had to say about it.
The post that I made
was against him, of course.
The post that I made is that there is a better person, okay, to represent the fight for what the cause is than him. And
why
you know
does
what
it have to be left up to one person?
It's not just on one person, but everybody was posting him in the meme is what I'm saying.
But that's what you're saying. You're saying that but there's the thing. The thing is, there was a comparison of his situation kneeling and why he was kneeling. That's all the meme was. I feel like we put so much into that one picture and we're focusing on this one person when there's a whole community of people that do the same thing Colin Kaepernick does. They just don't have the platform to do it. And it's okay for us to praise this one person for his deed that did because of the fact that we can't put everybody on a platform.
Right. But there are also people that have a platform, right, that don't necessarily agree with everything that you guys are saying right here. And they're Black. okay, and they have a different opinion, and I see them getting shot down. And like Chris was saying, in order to come together as a community, that means you got to embrace everybody. You got to embrace everybody and their differences. You got to respect everybody. I'm not saying you have to agree. I'm saying you have to respect. And I think
that's them though. That's them who are trying to be different.
No,
I think calling somebody an Uncle Tom or a house end or any of that nature is disrespectful. It's disrespectful.
But to that fact, to go a little bit deeper in that, whenever people of color do make these decisions and they end up getting called a house nigga or end up getting called an Uncle Tom, it's because the choices that they make, they don't feel one way or another that they, some black people feel that they don't feel in one way or another that they are black. They don't feel our same struggle. They don't have the same views as us. Now, granted, do I have some friends that are conservatives? I even have a friend or two who didn't directly say they voted for Trump, but they didn't say they didn't. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna put them out there because that's not my business. At the end of the day, if you're, I just need us to be all on the same page. So if you're pro-black, if you focused on your progression, on the lift, on that around of the people around you, then there's nothing else to talk about. It's not a situation of, well, damn, you know what I'm saying, you're a Republican, or damn, you know what I'm saying, you don't see anything wrong with the police killings. Some black people feel that we're being killed because of us, which is crazy to me. But I hear it. Okay, there's, like I said, certain situations that can be avoided. I've seen videos where I'm like, man, I would have just shut the fuck up. I would have, you know what I'm saying? I would have shut up and had my hand there, and then you could have possibly lived. But there's sometimes when people aren't given a choice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not to live or die. And I think at the end of the day, like, we need to make sure that one, we're being mindful of our actions, but it's like I said, it goes back to a conversation and like a general understanding. You know what I'm saying? And it's not about white, black. It's about, we're people at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? If you read the Bible, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are people. Now, are black people, now do I feel that white people are fearful of black folks and that they do see our power, do see things that we're capable of, which is why black people might be killed at a higher rate, or black people might be viewed in such a specific light. They want to keep you in a certain area because they know once you do rise up, there's going to be no return. A lot of white people are fearful of being the minority. I hear that very, very frequently. By the year 2050, I'm going to be the minority. So the fuck what? You know what I'm saying? But you're still here. You're still alive. You know what I'm saying? A lot of black people, we're the minority now. And we're the minority now. We don't get that opportunity. We don't get that chance. You know what I'm saying? And we're still killed at an alarming rate. So at the end of the day, it's not about, I don't give a fuck if you, whatever it is. We need to make sure that we're doing what's right by people. You know what I'm saying? By people of all creeds, of all colors, of all religions. But we need to make sure that we are pushing the envelope. And that's something else, like you said, I think silence is compliance. I have friends who are white police officers, black. I have a white police officer friend in Kansas. He's in Kansas in the middle of nowhere. Me and him talk very frequently about everything that's going on. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, it's what we need to make sure that we're doing is allowing our people the same opportunities that everybody else gets, the same conversations that everybody else gets. And we need to make sure that people are treated fairly. If there's anything else besides that, if you don't believe that, then you're completely against us. And I think that people of other colors, white folks, need to be speaking out against civil injustice and need to be speaking out against white privilege, because some white people don't think white privilege is a thing, and it's very much a very real thing. So like, people who aren't black need to be speaking up and saying and using their platforms, which I've seen some white folks do it. And I've personally, you follow me on Facebook, I've called my white friends out and I said to my non-black friends, your silence is being observed. If you're not speaking on our behalf, then that is you saying that you agree with what's going on the other side.
Right.
And what do they say? Like, what do they say?
Piggybacking off of that, like the fact that, you know, Jennifer said that it's not on us, because Monique presented the question of, you know, what can we do as a black community, or really everyone, what can we do as a community to kind of start to bring that change? And so what I want to touch on is, you know, the images that I'm seeing of the protests that are currently transpiring, the fact that I see people of every color out there. And, you know, initially when I saw the protests, I asked the question, I was like, where are we? I don't see a lot of black people in these protests. And now I'm actually okay with it because we fought for so long. And now it's time for the people to fight for us. And I don't want it to be a situation where I'm saying I want other people to control our narrative and as far as trying to make this change, but seeing the unity of the entire world, because it's not just here in the U.S. Like
They were in New Zealand, like.
Yeah, there are other countries
Oh man, they
out
going
there
hard.
fighting and
That's
protesting.
a shame.
They are going so hard, and that's
a
a
shame that
beautiful
other
thing.
countries. That's a shame that other countries realize what's going on here, and they're having to march for us as well.
Because it goes
that
on
should tell
there
you
too.
something. Huh?
It goes on there too, because Black people are everywhere. You know, it happens there too.
True.
And there was a guy, I don't remember, I wish I knew his name, but he died the same way that George Floyd died. There was a police officer that was kneeling on his neck and he ended up dying. And so it's just like now.
Are you talking about the guy that I brought up?
No, it was another Black guy in another country.
Okay.
He died exactly how George Floyd died. And so that now calls for everyone around the world to see that there needs to be change.
Yeah, and this man's death really broke the mold. He really did. This man's death, like, and I
think it was that rippling effect. You know what I'm saying? Because you had a mob just get killed. You had Breonna Taylor here in Dallas, Texas, just get killed. She was like up the road, just get killed. And then you got this brother in the street. Please get off me. I'm on the ground. You guys do not have to restrain me anymore. It is enough of y'all to take me and put me in the back of the squad car alive. You know what I'm saying? People are tired. Getting desensitized. That's the thing. I watch every video. Some people like, oh, it's another one. F that. We need to see it. We need to make sure that we are watching this because we can't become desensitized to it and just keep scrolling. You can't keep scrolling. Something needs to happen now. Right. And people are revolting because if something don't happen now in regards to these protests, in regards to people paying into the NCAA, NAACP and things of that sort, it's gonna be a rebellion. And that's just
they gonna shut shit
and
down.
I think it's like
they're gonna shut shit down.
For non-Blacks, it's easy for them to disconnect because they don't have to live in Blackness. So it's easy for you to change the channel. It's easy for you to continue scrolling on your timeline and dismiss it. And so for, like Christati said, you know, your silence is an issue. So you may not have always been a Black Lives Matter poster and protester and all of that situation, but now
it's never too late to join. Never too late to join. Because at this point, people who never said anything previously, different races, they're saying something now, and I have no issue with it. Welcome. Thank you. We appreciate
because me personally, I never have been a person to exchange a dialogue such as this because I was in a mindset of what is this conversation going to do? What is my post going to do? What are my comments on this post going to do? But now I can't continue to think that way because I'm seeing these images too much. And even though this conversation will not bring about change today, it just goes with the collective of all of the efforts that are being made to bring about that change.
I want to say this. I want to say this, and then I have a question for Christati based on something he said. But so I particularly have not posted the words Black Lives Matter. Okay, but you guys have seen my post, or I did not do the black square either. But you guys have seen my posts, okay? And they go back and forth so much so that I think all of y'all are very confused on. Like I think Chris said, like I'm surprised to hear this from you because I am pro-justice. Okay, I am against anything wrong. Okay, I don't put anybody's face on a t-shirt. Okay, I don't hold any banners up with anybody's face, but I am against some bad treatment that is going out on this world. I want to make that very clear. And I am most definitely pro the Black community, pro the Hispanic community, pro any community that is trying to do better, or any person for that matter. And I shouldn't have to say the Black Lives Matter to make that clear, okay? Because I've done plenty of posts on Black people that I feel are doing really good things in this world, you know? Even if they had a past before that wasn't 100%, like Lil Wayne, for instance, okay? He's a gangster, he's, you know, whatever. But he made a comment, and I thought, I really liked that comment that he made. As you know, he was saved by a white man. He was saved by a white police officer. He was stepped over by 3 other Black cops when he got shot. But I do want to ask Chris. Chris, when you called out your white, I think you said you called out your white friends on not posting. What did they say their reason was for not posting?
It wasn't even necessarily a reason. You know, white people, a lot of white folks literally just don't know what to say. You know, and I'm just like, shit, say what feels right. And so, and in some instances, we may differ, but you need to make sure that you're putting out, like you said, pro justice. So shit, even if it's like hey, I feel for y'all, I understand what's going on, and this is wrong. Leave it at that. Even we were talking about situations. We're talking about situations where people have like publicists who push it out. Even if you don't feel like that, fucking Urban Meyer, you know what I'm saying? Like all these different coaches who've been building programs off the backs of black slaves for years in the NCAA. These coaches could be tweeting out, even if you don't feel like it. Hey, I think this is terrible. What's going on? Y'all keep fighting a good fight, even if you're a fucking racist. But just put something out there so we know that you acknowledge what's going on. That's all I need. I don't care how you feel, because people ain't nobody ever like my white friends. I've came into a couple of situations, you know, in regards to race and things of that sort. I don't get into it, but like I just need to know that you are understanding and that you are aware of what's going on, and that you're not living in a shell thinking that everything is roses for the black community, because it's not. Even myself, I'm educated, you know what I'm saying? Like it's scary.
And piggybacking off of that, like if you are racist, or if you feel, well, I won't say that if you feel that you're racist, because a lot of people won't even acknowledge the fact that they're racist.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to have a conversation with you for me to determine whether or not you have a racist mindset or you're blind on the situations that are taking place. So now I know how to guide the conversation. So it's like we need to know what your stance is so we can kind of continue to know who we need to have the conversations with. Because if you're silent, we don't know who we're talking to at the end of the day.
Right.
And whether or not you're going to receive anything that is going to be said. So we need to know what stance you're taking at this point. So you saying nothing, we can only assume your stance until something is said.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys think, I was thinking about this the other day and I still haven't even like reconciled it in my brain, but do you guys think there's a difference between saying something, or I'm sorry, being racist or being racially insensitive? Do you think there's a difference?
Hey, time out, y'all. My phone is on like 1%, and I can't talk on the phone and charge. I have to charge my phone, so I can't be on the phone without being on my earphones. So like, if it just cuts me off, I just don't want y'all to think that I just left the conversation. But it's on like 1. I'm just gonna stay on until it cuts off.
Okay.
We're about to wrap it up real soon. Anyway.
All right, that's cool. That's cool.
But I don't think I think there's a difference in being racially insensitive and racist, because your racial insensitivity and how you communicate that becomes racist.
It can become racist.
It can become racist. So it all depends on how your lack of knowledge is interpreted and how it's communicated that makes it become racist.
To be honest, it's 2020. There's no lack of anything. You know what the hell is going on at this point.
Well, but we can't assume that. You cannot assume that everybody knows everything, because there are some situations where one thing that I hated school was history, because of the way that our history is taught. And now they've created a whole nother subject of African American history. And I don't like that the way that it's taught, because of the fact that 9 times out of 10, depending on the school, when you walk into this class, the person that's teaching African American history does not look like me.
Yeah.
And so I don't even want to go too much into that, because we definitely do need to wrap this up. So in closing, like, I kind of want to get everyone's like opinion on what do they think that you can do as a person to continue and fight for change.
We should let Chris go first since he's about to die. Well, Chris, you go first on that. Oh, he didn't hear. Chris, go first on that. Did you hear Desmond's question?
I'm sorry, can you please ask the question again?
So as we're wrapping up, because we do want to close before you die, before your phone dies, Jesus. What will you continue to do to fight for this change going forward?
First and foremost, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, and so I've seen so much civil injustices. I've seen burning crosses. I've seen KKK. And so I'm going to continue to push the message of my ancestors and of my people who were slaves. I'm going to push the message of my people who are mentally in bondage today. I'm going to push the message of my people who want to be free, my people who are free. I'm going to make sure that our voices are heard. I'm going to use my talents and my gifts to touch as many people as possible, and I just want to just impact change in any way I can. And so our nonprofit is going to continue to reach out and continue these programs for the kids, continue to feed the less fortunate, and I'm going to keep reaching for police reform. Ultimately, we need police reform, and we need our people to be free. So I'm going to keep pushing for that.
That's what's up. What about you, Monique?
So I am going to continue doing what I'm doing. First off, I want to say to you 4 people here, I love you guys tremendously. I respect you guys tremendously, and I understand everything that you said today. Okay, and do not misunderstand my viewpoints or my opinions as anything other than that. Okay, I respect you guys, and I hope you respect me. I'm going to continue doing what I do, which is I give back. Like Jasmine says, I love to live in this world of love and and unicorns and whatever. I'm gonna keep living in that space because that's all I know to do. Okay. And one thing I'm going to do more consistently than I've ever done before is when I see wrong, no matter what shape, form that's in, I'm going to call it out. Okay. I did it yesterday when this guy was backing up in the parking lot and there was this African-American gentleman walking behind the car and this dude wasn't paying attention and he couldn't see him in the back because he wasn't looking. So I went to the front of his car and I said, look behind you, you're just being an idiot. Like, come on, dude. And the guy came around to his car and said, did you not see me? So when I see wrong, whatever that looks like, doesn't have to be racially related or anything, I'm going to call it out. Even if I'm uncomfortable, because I feel like the best place that we grow as people is in that uncomfortable place. I'm going to stay uncomfortable and I'm going to show love to everybody. So that's it.
And what about you, Jennifer?
What am I going to do differently?
Or what are you going to do? What are you going to continue to do? If you feel like it's different than what you've been doing, what are you going to change or what are you going to make?
What I'm going to continue to do is be one with my people, try to be, one with my people, and try to help other people understand what's going on at the moment of other races, who are willing to learn, who really do want to learn and have our backs. At this point, I mean, that's all I can do right now.
And that's real.
That's all I can do.
Real. So for me, because I can say that I didn't grow up in a situation of a lot of my peers, I was very fortunate in my life. I can say that I can continue to knowledge myself on, the different situations that people endure during their life. And I kind of disconnected myself a lot from like political and social political things of that nature because of the fact that I felt like I was not enough to bring about any change. So I'm definitely going to continue to be present because I was not present in a lot of situations, and I'm going to continue to or try to be more present in situations such as this. I had never been to a protest before, and there have been plenty of protests prior to George Floyd, and I'd never even been interested in going out of fear, because of the fact that I was so disconnected from my people. Of course, I'm around Black people all day long, and I have Black friends, but I don't feel like I had the same life as a lot of my peers did. And so I definitely want to be more present. The way that I found that I can do that is through photography, honestly, because it captures the moment and gives so many different emotions in one picture. And like I've done some photo shoots and things like that, but I'm passionate about being able to capture moments like this. And so I want to be able to contribute to the change by doing so that the way that I can. And for me to do that is to be present.
I want to say I love that, because a picture doesn't lie, for sure. You know, so the fact that you are gifted in that sense and can capture a moment and create a story or portray a story through that picture without even having to say words is a beautiful, beautiful gift to have. So.
Yeah. And with that being said, we definitely want to wrap it up. We've lost Christati. His phone has died, apparently. And we definitely want to thank everyone for tuning in with us once again. We know it's been a minute since y'all seen us, but we're coming back better and stronger. We're definitely behind the scenes working on some good stuff for you guys. So definitely stick with us. We love each and every one of you for supporting us the way that you have. And I definitely want to encourage you, anyone that's watching, is to be part of the change.
Have conversations.
Baby.
Have conversations with people. Even if you're scared, have a conversation. We
Absolutely.
did it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Love you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Love you too. Bye, P.
Bye.